Alright, so we got it here in the shop. Kevins 570, putting the gear reduction in the transmission. It's tucked up in there pretty good. But it's my first attempt at doing it. Definitely Kevin's. But how we're going to approach it is, since we got to redo the wheel bearings, both of this is going to become disassembled on both sides. Definitely take the belt box off, inner and outer. Take the snorkels off. I'm going to try to do it without taking the bed off. I believe I can. Then we got to take the drive shaft out, and his air box is going to come out. The snorkel, the throttle body will come out, and then both axles, of course, shifter linkage, some vent lines, and then I think I'm going to take the shocks off too. Over here, I think I can get by without taking the exhaust off, which I should. Take all these electrical connections out. There's one right here for his gear selector. Back there, there's one, his vent line. You have to take the starter off, and of course the shifter linkage bracket, and that's kind of the first part of it, and then we'll update it from there. Alright, well, it wasn't a problem at all. Got, even though it's definitely not out or anywhere close, but we also always silicone on his belt box, and that came off no problem. His got the special puller for his CB Tech primary here. So in itself, that thing actually is also a a 30? No, not 30. You know, it's like a 14 whatever percent gear reduction, let's just say. And so we got his belt box off here. Secondary shaft, primary shaft, his snorkel back there, his belt exhaust snorkel there. Had to do your electrical wires here. Next, we're going to move on to the drive shaft up front, and then take off this whole plate here. And we still got to get his axles out, which we're about to do over here. Kind of shows, like I said, you know, that sensor back here. We undid his throttle or crank position sensor. Got to pull off the vent line and the starter. So I'm sorry if some of this is repetitive from video to video. I can't remember exactly everything that was said. And all we did was he moved his throttle body up here, up out of the way. What we did was crankcase vent. Never made a video of that or showed you, but you always take your crankcase vent, loop it a few times, and then we run it into the top of his airbox right here. And then we'll just usually cut this off and make a new section, but do it at the top of the airbox. That way, if whatever, say if he ever does sink it, water's going to fill up here, and hopefully won't get into his motor just easily through that. So you move it up there, and that's it. And I'll try to get some video as we keep on going. Of course, you don't want to go to town on all these gasket services, but it is silicone, so it kind of makes it a little easier. Alright, so then you want to take your thumbs and push in on, let's say this. I think I'm already coming apart here. Which I think I did. There's a spring, right? It goes with this cam, and the spring right here goes underneath here. It'll sit down in this little pin, and then it'll go there, give it some tension. First, you take that out, then you take this part out, and all these are keyed also. There's like a key right there that's only going to fit on the shaft one way. Pull that out, pull out your plastic spacer. Then you can pull this out, and this end of it will come off right here. But it's also keyed, so you can't get it mixed up. And then you got your final star gear right here. Now when you go to put these back together, there is a dot right there and on both sides, so you can put it on either way, but it is keyed, so it'll always line up. And then there's also two dots on the gear right here, and so what you want to do is, obviously, when you put it back on, align these all together. And also, when you start taking this apart, make sure that your transmission is in high gear. I usually just tell that by putting it in there and all the way forward. Before you take this part off, just put it all the way in high gear, and then you'll go from there. Alright, got the case all taken apart here. There's like 14 case bolts holding this all on. And then once you get that done, there's a few pry points, like one there, one here, and then the big one back here in the back. Go ahead and pry from there, nice and even all over, and then the whole case will just pop up. There's no washers or anything like that, it's just all concentrated right here in the case. Just watch out for all that. And then what we're going to be replacing here is these two gears right here, which are right here, and then one down in here. But this whole shaft is going to be replaced. That's your reverse chain. And then so we'll start by taking off the shift fork here, the shift pin, and then pull this out, and then pull this off as an assembly, and then this one here. Alright, so when you pull the all your case bolts off, you'll slide the case off. This, I already pulled this off, but your shift drum here will be with the dowels. All they say to do is take this, pull your springs back, and then this thing will kind of loosen up, and you'll pull this out, set that to a side, pull it out again because it's got to get from this pin right here, it's got to come out. So you'll slide that out and then pull your shift forks out. And this is all going to be one assembly too. It can't fall down, it can't separate, anything like that. And then next here, we'll see if we can pull this thing out nice and easy. And that's your drive. On your other ones here with your turf mode and whatnot, this is where all your gears and everything will be right here. But this is obviously a fully locked rear end. So we'll slide that away. And then next here, what you want to do on the back side here also, there will be a C-clip, which you'll just take that off, pop that out. And then you want to grab these top three gears all as an assembly right here, and pull it off all as one here. So you'll kind of slide it out a little bit. And then kind of work your bottom one out a little bit, your top one. Wiggle them. Alright, and then pull it out a little bit, and this bottom one will come out by itself. And then your top two will come out. And this also will be kind of held together, so you don't have to really worry about this falling down and whatnot. This one here is going to be, we're just going to keep that one in there. If you want to take that out, it'd be these, and then it'll come out. But you don't have to mess with any of that for the gear reduction install. So that's it as far as taking it out. There's really no shims, there's no anything like that for you to fall down in there and worry about. So just take that all off as an assembly. Okay, sorry I'm not filming all this, but it's just kind of going by pretty quick. What you want to do first, like I said, is lift up on this shift drum right here. Lift up on this, pull your shift drum out from your forks here, and then you will pull your main drive out from the case here. That'll go in right here, and then your shift drum and your shift pin will be there. And then what they don't tell you in the manual though is on your shaft here where your secondary rides, there's a C-clip that needs to be taken out before the shaft will just slide right on out. So just be sure you pull that out from the outside of the case, and then this whole shaft, both of these will lift out just as assembly, and so will this one. And so then our next step here is to replace this shaft with this one, and then the big gear right here on this shaft. We're going to need a bearing puller, and I think that's pretty much about it. There's another C-clip there, obviously. You have to pull this bearing off, pull the C-clip, just slide out, slide the new one on, and then reinstall your bearing. Okay, so to change out the big gear here, all you're going to need to do is get a bearing puller, because this bearing right here will sit on top of here. And all I do is use just the 3-jaw puller. Pull it off real nice and even. So you pull it off from there. You'll have your C-clip on here. Pull that off. There will be a washer, and then your big gear will come off. But the bigger collar is going to be pointed down. Then you get your new one. And slide that on, just like so. we'll press it on, and then we'll go back with Super ATV's C-clip is actually a little bit smaller, so we'll put the washer on, and then Super ATV's C-clip, and that'll be it and then we'll press back on this bearing here, and then we'll be good to go with that shaft. Alright, so I need to take this second part of the reduction to my work and press these bearings off, because my puller I have wouldn't fit in here with the teeth and whatnot. So but all you do though is you take this, you press this bearing off on the end here, you'll slide the collar off. There is a C-clip right here, then this will come off, and then you slide it all onto the new shaft, which is this end. You'll slide it all back on the same. You put the gear on, the C-clip, the collar, and then the bearing. Basically the same exact thing for this side too. You have a bearing, the C-clip down there, the gear, there's another C-clip right there, the collar, and then this gear here. There's another C-clip with this gear, which is your reverse chain gear. And let me see if I can get... There's your C-clip right there. So all these will just slide right off. They're already loose on there, but once you just pull your C-clips off and everything, slide this end off, slide that end off. This is the only gear that's going to stay on the shaft, obviously, for this one here. And then you just slide everything on. When you take this gear off, that's when you'll be able to separate your two shafts here, because that'll drop this down, which will be enough to drop your chain off here, so, or at least slide it. And also here with this one. So that's that part. Everything's done. So we got this one done, this one done. We'll slide these over, and we'll end up selling those, because out of the 570 Rzr, it's the same as the Highlifter Edition Rzr 1000 gear reduction. So this will be able to go into like the 900s, the 1000s that aren't the Highlifter Edition, and give them that reduction. So next we're going to clean up the cases a little bit and slide it back in. Alright, so after you have your gear reduction done, like you've seen in other videos where you have this shaft and the big gear here, you basically want to take them all. It's kind of a one assembly here. Slide it into that top hole, and then you want to take your other two gears here, go ahead and slide them together, and then put these all in as one. It kind of gets tricky here, but I have to play around with it. Put that top gear in, bottom gear will slide in, and then up here just keep pushing them in like one at a time here, and then pretty soon they'll just took a little bit to get all these three bearings actually in the hole here and seated, because we put a new seal up here on this one, so it was kind of tough breaking it through that. But make sure they're all seated, they're all going to be flush mounted in there, and then we'll take your big main gear here, and we'll slide that around. I'll line it up there. Real basic stuff on that. We got a new gasket on this side too, so there you go, and that's seated in there. And also just make sure all your gears line up, like they just line up smooth and nothing's binding on here. You can turn all this really well. And in case you don't know either, this right here, this is your high gear, so it'll fall down into place, and these two right here are your high gears. Then you slide this over, and then that's your reverse gear on this side, which then goes up to your chain and everything. So this is your reverse gear. This one will slide up here in the middle, which will be neutral, and then this one right here will then turn, and that's your low gear between these two gears right here. That's your low gear. And then in park, when you put it in park, this thing slides all the way over, and then on your other case, which I have over there, this slides up against the case on another little tooth on your case, and that puts it in park. So, okay. Now when you're installing your shift fork here, you want it installed in high gear. So all you do is make sure that the lobes are, when the transmission's oriented like this, where you have your main drive down here and your secondary coming in, you want your shift fork pins to be on the upper side, on both sides. If you take this apart, just make sure they're both oriented that way. And so all you're going to do is slide that in, I might slide this shift fork or this pin back here. And then once they're both fully seated on these two shims right there, you'll want to pull back on your rod here and then slide that into this groove right here, and that'll lock it in. What you can do, so we won't do it yet, since this is spring loaded, you can't like preset it into high gear, but you do want to set this in high gear like I said, which so on your shift drum here, it's going to be the one that's all the way to the right side. So when you see it, these big openings right here will be pointed up kind of towards you. But so all you'll do with that is, I found it easiest to go ahead and pull back a little bit on your basically make this go into reverse. That way you can pull back on your shift drum here. Then your middle dowel here will line up. You can see that. But your middle dowel, and then pull back on your low gear. And then pull up, and there you go. Now that's actually in low gear right now. But all your pins are set. Okay, then once you have it all up, kind of set up like this, and then install your bead around here. We used Yama Bond, and I actually kind of like it better than the Honda Bond. It doesn't seem to be as liquefied and droopy, but just want to make one continuous bead all the way around. And there are two spots you kind of want to watch out for. You definitely want your shift shaft here to go in nice and freely, and then you have a dowel pin right here, and then back down here kind of towards the bottom right there that you want to watch out for. Make sure that it's got to go in pretty well even, or that's going to kind of get cockeyed a little bit and just make it hard to get on. So make sure everything, like I said, up here goes in smoothly, and all your bearings sit in there. Don't force anything, and it'll slide right on in. Alright, so we got it all back in. Everything's lined up correctly. What we did is when we slid it in, like I said, sorry if some of this stuff has been talked about before or said before, but we've been filming this throughout a few days now and I just can't remember. But what we did is we went ahead and pulled the front diff, actually. Not pulled it, we undid all the bolts to it and slid the whole diff up. Kind of slide it up and then at an angle. And that's plenty to get that drive shaft out right there. If you want to do that instead of trying to take the roll pin out of your front diff. So you did that. Then we tightened up this back one here first, the back mount, and then these 4 bolts right there. And then next I'll just go ahead and put on the starter, finish up tightening all these, put the belt on, and then of course with your intake and airbox and everything, seal those back up. With on this side, you know, and you got your shifter plate and shifter bracket and everything. So we're gonna do that. I'm still waiting on this part to come in. When I was taking that off, it was just seized on there, so we had to break that off getting it. And so get that, put the axles back in, and we'll be able to test it out and drive it.